Our third test is coming up soon, so here's some information that will help you prepare for the test. Our first item in the list has to do with whether a number is prime or composite. Make sure that you know the definitions of these terms. You will be asked to write the definition of a prime number. Also, students tend to confuse the properties of the numbers 0 and 1. Make sure you know about 0 and 1. What I'm talking about is whether these numbers are even or odd. Are either of them prime? What about a sign, negative or positive? Do they have these characteristics? Look over the information you have about 0 and 1. You'll be asked to do a prime factorization. You can use factor tree if you'd like. You can do stacked short division or some other method. The next item is concerning the fundamental theorem of arithmetic. You will be asked to write the statement of the fundamental theorem of arithmetic. The next item has to do with finding factors of a number. The question is, how far do you have to check before you decide you have found all the factors? When you find factors, it's easy to write them in pairs. For instance, if you're thinking about divisors or factors of 12, you can think 1 times 12, there's a pair, 2 times 6, there's another pair, and 3 times 4, there's another pair. So the question is, how far do you have to check before you decide you have found all the factors? The smallest factor is always less than or equal to the square root of the number. So you only have to go as far as the square root of the number as you find pairs of factors. How many factors does a number have? Well, one way to find out is to list all the factors. A more efficient way is to look at the prime power factorization of the number. To find the number of factors, if you will add 1 to each of the exponents and then multiply all those numbers together, then that will tell you how many factors the number has. For instance, if you had 2 to the 3rd power times 3 to the 3rd power, both exponents are 3, add 1 to each exponent, that would make 4, and multiply those together. 4 times 4 is 16. That number would have 16 factors. The last item we have here on this slide has to do with the divisibility tests. Make sure you know how to use all of the divisibility tests that we had presented in this chapter. Our next item has to do with finding greatest common factors and least common multiples using prime factorizations. That's been demonstrated to you. Make sure you know how to do this. The next item has to do with the Euclidean algorithm, which is used to find the greatest common factor. That was demonstrated in one of the lessons. Make sure you review how to do that. The third item here has to do with using two-color counters. Make sure you can draw the diagrams for using two-color counters to add, subtract, and multiply. The fourth item here is answer integer operation problems. This means be able to add, subtract, multiply, and divide integers. The next item, be able to draw fractional parts in a given rectangle or circle or on a number line. If you are asked to divide a circle into fourths, can you do that? This is what we're talking about for that. And the last item has to do with vocabulary words. For the most part, you will just need to have a working knowledge of all of the vocabulary words. As I mentioned earlier, you will be asked to write the definition of a prime number, and you will be asked to write the statement of the fundamental theorem of arithmetic. Make sure you study well for this test.